Hi, Dave here. Thanks for clicking on the link. This isn't a new video as a new material, but what it is, I've put together a couple of videos on the progress of my exploration of this building. It's a purpose-built hotel, 12 stories, but as you can see at the front, there's quite a few stories missing. So this is just videos explaining what I've been able to find out, and also some other very interesting facts about the place. So do hope you enjoyed the video. Catch you later. Hi there, thanks for watching. Decided to put this video together from the comforts of your own home as opposed to being out in the freezing cold at Scarborough. Firstly, I want to say I don't come from Scarborough at all. I'm not from that area. It's just when I first got interested a few weeks ago in the mud flood phenomenon, I was at Scarborough at the time. I was having a little message with Mick from Rebel Without a Pause, and he just happened to mention if you're out and about to whip out your camera and take a few pictures, which is what I did. But this, I really want to concentrate more this time, not so much on flood streets, but a particular building, this one that you can see here, the Grand Hotel. It really first sparked my interest a couple of years ago. I was fortunate enough to stop there for the night. It wasn't very, but 2 nights it wasn't a very pleasurable experience, but I'll get into that in a little bit. The official narrative of this wonderful building, it was built in Victorian times. It was completed in 1869. It was built around the yearly calendar. Firstly, it was built in the shape of a V. As you can see, there's one side of the V going off down here and one side going off down there. But it was also built around the yearly calendar. You have your 4 towers, which represent your 4 seasons. You have 52 chimney stacks somewhere that represent the 52 weeks of the year. You have 365 bedrooms. And most importantly, from our sort of standpoint, is it has 12 floors. Now, firstly, this is a purpose-built hotel from scratch. It was the biggest of its kind in Europe. And as you can see, really, we'll start dissecting this. This is a view from the front. This is the entrance where you go in. This is classed as the 7th floor. It's the turret rooms. But as you count down, I mean, if that's 1 level, the little white windows are 2. That's 3. Underneath the eaves there is 4. 5, 6, 7, 8. Which makes no sense at all. A purpose-built hotel to have so many floors underground in the mud. Now, when you think about it, it's sort of this frontage here, 3 floors worth, that's actually below street level here. And this is where this purpose-built hotel doesn't really jive with me. Move on to the back of the building here. Now, when this was built in the shape of a V, I'll show you an aerial view in a bit, but when it was built in the shape of a V, at the same time this was built, sorry about that, phone call I needed to get. So this is the back of the building. When this building was built, and it says nothing about this in the original descriptions, they built this 3-story extension. So the actual bottom half of that building is behind this extension, and it was built at the same time. So there again, it makes no sense at all. What I actually think is, when they've been building this or designing it, they've needed some sort of retaining wall to keep all this lot up. And rather than just a retaining wall, they built a retaining extension, which, they can maximise all these windows there. Because, I mean, sea views are, top dollar. And what you don't see very well on this picture here, and that's this bottom half here, it actually, from there down to here, It's a huge, what was Victorian spa complex, built as part of the hotel, I assume. As you can see, it has quite a nice doorway here. I'll show you a picture in a minute. I think that was the doorway that, you know, the wealthy people had stopped here, rather than going down on the street and queuing up to get in this place. They had their own little doorway, which, you know, leads down here. Let's move on to the next one. This is roughly what it was, you know, Victorian era, just after it was built. It's almost like a three-step, it's not three-step pyramid, but, you know, to keep that building in place, they built that, and to keep it all in place, they built that. And, you know, I think I've got a picture here, actually, taken from, oh, I'll just enlighten that a little bit. As you can see in its Victorian heyday, this extension here, that was built at the same time, but there's no mention of it. You'd have your little towers on here as well. And the other crazy thing is, all these spikes up the top here. Right, back to these ones here. Well, just basically, this is, again, Victorian era, supposedly in its heyday, although there doesn't seem that many people about. But nice doorway, you know, that I pointed out, and a nice path that goes down in this bar area. It has a double balcony, actually. I've actually stopped in them rooms there on that balcony. This level is actually being covered up with a later extension. I'll show you in a bit. This is the hotel from obviously a different angle. I was fortunate enough to stop in a room, a hotel over the road. And, you know, it's a beautiful uniformity of the windows out the front, but nothing like that in the middle. The other strange thing is this thing here. What it is, what its purpose is, I have no idea, but there's a smaller one on the front. And you can see better here, you know, the V shape that it actually is. This area down here, I'll get to in a minute. It's how my view changed on this building within the space of a couple of minutes, really. It's what I thought was the impact area, mud flood impact area, because the direction the mud would have come would have been the other side of that building. The first contact on this building would have been on the corner down here. But I took a picture of it and sent it to somebody, and I'll tell you the results in a minute. This is a view of the hotel, but it's mainly this picture I wanted to point out. I've already done a little video about down here. All these mud flood, you know, rooms below street level. Cliff Terrace at the bottom here, I managed to get around the back of them buildings on one of the little videos I've done, and you can actually see the rooms disappearing underneath the road. So this whole area is affected. And what you can see just here, I'll show you a bit better in another picture, is a bridge that takes you across a big ravine over to a big hill this side. Now all these properties here, and all the ones along there that face out onto the ocean, are all the same with underground levels, which makes no sense at all, really. You know, it's prime property, it's overlooking the North Sea, so why do you build levels below ground? It's just beyond me. This is the view from the top. I mean, this is the original design, the V that I've mentioned about, you know, the 4 towers. You'd have your dome in the centre, you'd have your dome there. But this extension is not mentioned anywhere as part of the main build that I can find. But I'm not from Scarborough, so, you know, I may be looking in the wrong places or whatever. So anyone that can help me out with any of this that I'm talking about, you know, I'd be really grateful. This is the extension of the back that I was talking about. And it gives you some idea of not only how deep it is, but this level here is street level out the front of the building. So you have all this distance way below street level out the front, which for a purpose-built hotel, You know, it's crackers. It's absolutely crackers. It makes no sense whatsoever. You know, a quarter of your windows on that side of the building are under the ground, and a quarter of your windows this side of the building are looking into this thing. That gives you the, you know, just from a slightly different angle. As you can see, the windows, you know, still go down here. I'm going up on the roof shortly with pictures, so I can take you a picture, you know, down here. And also the double balcony, that one's in use now, but this balcony is now covered over by this later extension, early 1900s, I think. So looking up the gap again, really, it's a retaining wall as such, it's a retaining extension. I mean, that's a corridor, but when I get up on the roof, I'll show you what I mean. This gives you some idea of how steep the steps are, you know, from, this is your road level up here out the front, and this is getting down towards your footprint of your building. You know, it's just immense. This is looking down, and after we've been on the roof, I'll come round to this corner here. And this is, you know, street level out the front. You know, it's one heck of a distance. And if you take into consideration the spa complex at the front, it's where that lady stood down there. You know, it's one heck of a distance from top to bottom. This is on the roof of the extension. You can see the balcony that's still in use. I've actually stopped in that room there. You can see your white fence here, iron railings there. That's to stop you from falling down the gap. You know, it's one heck of a drop. As you can see, this is the second balcony that's no longer in use. If that was followed through the building, that would be out at street level at the front. And as you can see, just with these, I mean, you can see at least 3 levels going down there. These are the retaining, what I call retaining walls. You know, it's a separate extension, but it's very firmly connected to the main building. And the thing is, you know, the windows still go down. You know, it's really confusing, because why would you have that window space going right down to the floor if you're going to build an extension in front of it? Not as it was for light purposes, maybe, I don't know. But it doesn't really make sense at all, not to me. Again, it's looking down that gap. There's a few pipes and things in the way there. This is where I was stood taking a photo looking up the gap, and it gives you some idea of, you know, the depth that that goes to. You know, it's hellish deep, and there's at least this out the front of the building that's underground, and you don't build a purpose hotel like that, I'm afraid. I don't think so anyway. This is again looking down the gap. And with this one, I mean, this is 1 below street level, that's 2. You've got 3 going down there. You can see the fire escape, and you've got the 4 going down there. So, you know, there's the stairs again. It makes no sense at all. This is the impact area, and it's where I'm going to leave it because I'm running out of time on this one. But I'll start the grand part 2 from this, you know, spot, and tell you what I think about the place, because I don't really think it doesn't go with the official narrative anyway. So thanks very much for listening to this half, and I hope to catch you on the second half. Bye for now. Hello again, thanks for coming back for part 2. This area, really, the impact area as I call it, just before I mention that, these levels below street level, there's no secret about them. This hotel is noted for what we call its interior rooms. Them levels are used up, but the bedrooms down there have no windows, no ventilation, no bugger all, they're horrible. And that was my first bad experience stopping here. So, you know, I actually believe there's more down there than what the staff say, but you know, these levels aren't a secret. Right, continue on with this impact area. When I was busy taking pictures for Mick, he just sent me a message. I was having fish and chips, to keep an eye out for brick, you know, stonework. There isn't stonework really, that's just plaster. And this is the wall I come across. So I made a little video, it's on YouTube. I made a little video just explaining to Mick about this wall, but also what I thought about this area. See, if the mud or whatever was coming, it would hit this corner of the building first. You'd have so much of it flowing down here and so much flowing across the front of the building. And I was saying to them, you know, what I thought is if something's happened to this part of the building and it's been bodged up basically with, you know, cheap modern brickwork, and Mick rebel without a pause. When he took a look at the video, I mean, I know absolutely nothing about the building trade or architecture or anything. At the time, Mick didn't know anything about this building either. But when he took a look at it, he said, you know, some of this brickwork, the red brickwork, could be 200-year-old. You know, it's old brickwork. It's not modern stuff. And really, at that point, my jaw hit the floor, you know, the bloody big clunk. Because if this red brickwork, some of this is 200-year-old, this whole hotel is only 150-year-old. So what's 200-year-old brickwork doing in a 150-year-old? You know, it just makes no sense at all. So that's when I, you know, moved away from the building as such and started to go on the hunt to see what was there beforehand. And this is a picture. This is where the Grand Hotel is now. It basically states that Scarborough's own St Nicholas Hospital once stood here, which I thought fair enough, but move on a bit. This is from 1850. It's just before the Grand was built, the Ordnance Survey Map, and it shows, you know, a small, I don't know, there's a gap there. I can't understand what that is, but it shows basically a row of houses, and I think this bloody big thing stuck on the back, as I thought. But what is important with this picture as well, it shows you that there used to be a beck that used to run into the sea here. Before the Grand was completed, this beck has disappeared. I don't know whether it's been piped off to supply the town's water supply, whether it's been to supply the various spas or whatever. I don't know. And like I said, I'm not from this area, so I don't know the history that well. This is one of those eureka pictures, I thought, because firstly, it shows you the Grand Hotel, the year it opened, this picture's from. It shows all the fireworks, which I thought, great stuff, that must be the celebration of the grand opening. Also, you can see the tower there on the extension, so the extension's definitely there. These have gone now, these chimney stacks. But look at all these rods and antenna on the top of the building. But not only that, what really blew my mind away, I thought, Christ, look. After watching Martin and Phil and other people like that with their channels, oh Christ, look at all the mud. You know, the stuff's everywhere, as I thought. And I was really feeling quite pleased with myself and quite chuffed with myself. And then I come across this image, which is a photo of that picture I've just shown you. But how easy I can be misled. All what I thought was mud is really trees and foliage and bushes or whatever. Like I say, that's the metal bridge that connects one valley to the other. The stream by this time has gone. Don't know where that's gone to. But we'll move on a bit further down the history line. This is just another view I showed you earlier on, and it's, you know, in its Victorian heyday with its two little towers on there, and Mom was sure with the spikes up the top there as well. No, it's not going to enlarge for me, is it? Yes, it is. You know, you can clearly see these spikes, and you can clearly sort of see the three-step to it all. And all this is still there. You know, they've ripped the front away, and it's all just plain brick wall now, but all their infrastructure, I believe, is still behind them walls. So anybody that works for the council that, you know, maintains that, or if it belongs to the hotel, this is the one that really sort of blew me away, this image. These are called the Water Lodgings. It's before the Grand Hotel, and I think after the hospital. And as you can see, you know, they're all buildings. But look what these buildings stood in. You know, them buildings are very, very clearly built on top of this structure here. Now, this is a structure that was here long before the Grand. So this is where I think when the Grand was designed and built, I don't really think it was built from scratch, as they say. I actually think that they're built on top of something that was already there. But as far as I can trace back, you know, before these there was a hospital, and that doesn't look like a hospital. You know, that it doesn't make sense. Then I come across another picture which shows you from the back view, which is this one here. And this is long before, you see the blue bridge there. You know, that was 1827, I think that was put in. You can see the buildings there, which we've just had a look at. But they are very, very clearly in the footprint of this humongous thing here. What it is, I think I found out what it is. But I mean, it's so much you can see. They haven't even bothered scraping the mud from the side, you know, they've just left it where it is. There's not that many people about either on this picture drawing. This is another picture I come across which really just backs up what I've just said on the other picture. You know, you have your blue bridge that comes across there. You clearly have a structure there. You know, which was there before the Grand. And, you know, it's a structure I think I may have found the answer to when I came across this beauty. Now, this is a copper print and engraving that was done sometime in the 1700s. I ain't got a clue when. Maybe somebody that can identify these boats, you know, give me a better idea. But what it shows you is the same bay that the Grand Hotel is in. You have your big castle here. But when you, I won't enlarge it too much, just a little bit. When you start and look at Scarborough as the town, you know, it does actually look like they're just starting to dig themselves out the mud. It really does. You know, this is sometime early 1700s. Oh, well, I'll go back out a bit actually. This is the gorge or the valley that I've been talking about. The water would have flowed out here. Now, the blue bridge, the metal bridge I've been talking about, actually would go from round about here over the gap to here. Now, right where the Grand Hotel is now, you have that little tiny monument there. I'll blow it up because that's all it is. It just looks like a heap of stones, to be honest. You know, but we go down the bottom here and have a look what that is. And that's the ruins of St. Nicholas Church. Now, after watching, as I have done with Martin and Phil, and, you know, a few other people that have been putting out these videos, where we know full well that some of these big religious buildings that the church has actually hijacked, that they were there for a totally different reason. You know, a reason that when they hijacked them, they've kept that knowledge to themselves. And as it states on the bottom there, it's actually the ruins underneath that lot. And I really do think that it's after the mud event. You know, maybe part of this church has been, you know, flattened, ruined, whatever. and at a later stage they've dug it out as such and made use of, you know, if the churches were what we think they were used for in antiquity, you know, the ground might be just a facade for what's actually going on below the ground, if that makes sense. You know, you have a big water spa complex out the front now. And the other thing, just to finish this video off with, anybody at all that can help me with any of this about Scarborough, I'll be more than grateful. You know, you might live in Scarborough in one of the, you know, houses that seems to have 2 or 3 levels below street level. This is another really interesting thing that I've come across and I haven't been able to do any research on. But here is the spa building. So in the 1700s, that spa building was pretty important. But what you have here, number C, is Dickie's Castle. Now, Dickinson, or someone like that they call him, in the 1700s, I think he built the first spa there, a bit of a jack-o'-lantern by all accounts. Now, I don't know whether this Dickie's Castle refers to an actual castle that used to be on that site, or whether it's a bit of a mockery and, you know, a piss take. Whoever had this, you know, image created, that, you know, Dickie thinks he's king of his castle, so to speak. So I don't know on that one, and I'll do a bit more research. But what is really strange, you know, it's that the important buildings that are listed, you know, 2 churches, the spa, 2 castles, and then you have the water supply. You know, I mean, I know Nick Rebel Without Pause is, you know, quite interested in the hill situation. You have the top of the hill over here. You have a big valley ravine. You have the top of the whole hill over here off the picture, and literally everything in between is mud flood affected. But I'd like to know, you know, if anyone can help in any way, shape or form, you know, with this research. If anybody from Britannia Hotels ever sees this video, you know, can me and Mick, me mudflood buddy, you know, come and stop a weekend there with no limited access. Or maybe some council workers that, you know, maintain the spa complex that's still at the front, that's all bricked up. And to finish off with, I don't know Scarborough at all. It really is it was just a seaside destination as a kid. I don't live close by. I live about 80 miles away from there, so I don't get the chance to go there that often. So any additional help, you know, would be great. I'll leave my email address in the comments, you know, anything that you want, you know, anything you'd send me over. Maybe you work at the Grand and, you know, you can take a few pictures of, you know, what the foundation stoneworks are like. Anything at all, I'll be more than grateful. Or any comments at all. Because it's one of those strange subjects that I've only just got into it, but, you know, it's taken me peace of mind away at times. It really is. Because I just want to find out more and learn more. I haven't even started in my hometown yet, which is, you know, my next project. Anyhow, thanks very much indeed for watching, and I hope to see you again. Bye. Hello again, Dave here. Thanks for tuning in and clicking on the link. I did want to do a little update on the Grand Hotel in Scarborough. It's a building that took me peace of mind away really a couple of years ago when I first stopped there. I've already done a 2-part video on it, so I won't go into all the details about the place, but what I could never get away with from the beginning is what the official narrative says of the build and what we can see on the ground that was actually built. And that was, let's say, well over 2 years ago. I've been back to the hotel a few times, and it still had that intrigue. Why, I don't know. It's just one of those sort of like things just getting drawn back to the place. This is the Grand as you see it today. The official narrative, it was built in the shape of a V, commemorate Queen Victoria, 4 towers for the 4 seasons, 52 chimneys for 52 weeks of the year, 365 bedrooms for each day of the year. The initial build, like it says in the shape of a V. Now what I could never understand, where this extension came from, because it's not mentioned anywhere in the build about this extension, and I didn't really know where to look. I found out what it is since, but I'll get round to that. This is it in its heyday when it opened. It's a 12-story hotel, supposedly, purpose-built hotel, supposedly. Best of its kind in Europe of its time. That's not 12 stories high. You know, the official narrative is there's 3 floors below that they do use now. They use as interior bedrooms. Bloody horrible place down there. But I've spoke to 2 people that have worked there that have been way below the levels that the claim is down there. This is a picture of basically what was supposed to be the original build to be, which, you know, it makes sense to a certain extent, but I could never understand why a purpose-built hotel would have 3, the staff say, I say at least 5, and other people say 6 levels below the street. So you've got almost all that bloody face of the hotel, that amount of window space below the road. Didn't make sense, and it still doesn't now. This gives you the height of the building from top to bottom. This is looking up the side of it, looking down. You know, there's the bottom part of the footprint of this whole complex. And as you can see, that's looking up the other way. That's how much is below the street out the front. This is that extension that I've just talked about. This is looking down the gap of the hotel, and I'm stood on the extension here. But this window level here is 1 below street level. That's 2. You can see the stairs go down there, 3. That's 4 levels that we can see already. So, you know, lovely place inside, it really is. But I wasn't really interested in the inside, I was interested in more who built it. And to find out, really, I had to go back a little bit in time. This image here shows from, you know, quite a different view. This image here, when I first heard about mud flood, I was actually in Scarborough. And I got a text off Mick, Rebel Without a Pause. And he was, actually I think I've got a picture here, yeah. What I was looking out for on my travels was walls like this one here. It appears to be sandstone blocks, but it's not. It's just a very thin render, then it's pointed to make it look like sandstone blocks. The other thing that got me, this is on the side of the Grand, was this red area here. And very, very quickly, in a nutshell, as I found out, some of this brickwork is 200-year-old. So what's 200-year-old brickwork doing in a building that's only 150-year-old? That's because the Grand was built on top of something else. Now what was prior to the Grand was a set of buildings called the Water Lodgings, which I'll go into in a sec. And I reckon that this stonework is maybe part of that era. This one, before I move on to Water Lodgings, this, pretty much as it is today, on the right. On the left is, you know, it's Victorian heyday. See the little towers on the extension there. Extension's already built. But the thing that's, I'll come round to showing you later, I wonder what this thing here was. It's like a little round tower. And it stuck in my mind, and, you know, I eventually got the answer. This is looking at from the, you know, from the coast road. This is the extension that was built, and I believe was there before all this Grand was built. It's not just a small extension, which is how it's portrayed in the history books, and I'll get around there in a bit. It's quite a big place. I mean, look at the size of that bus. And I do believe that the footprint of that building out the front, and people have said that it does, goes down to this level. You know, that's how big and vast that building is. This is Kelvin, a lad who's been helping me out a hell of a lot around, you know, when I'm researching in Scarborough. This is one of the levels below street level that they decided to turn into interior rooms. I mean, the columns there, but I mean, they've been plastered over, God knows what's behind them. But that's as much as I can get the photography below there. Last time I finished off on this picture about the Grand, because it's mid-1700s print. But the thing that really caught me at the time, and it still grabs me now, what I found really important, I felt were important, for the castle and the church together. See, we know now the churches have been hijacked by religion, that there were totally different types of buildings used for different purposes. And I firmly believe that somewhere beneath that castle was a fresh water supply as well. They're very important buildings. Over this side, you have what's called Dickie's Castle. It has a dome on the top, just like the Spa has a dome on the top now. But most importantly for me, this area here, F down the bottom here, is the ruins of St. Nicholas Church. So there's a church or something below that, because it's the ruins of it, it's below there. And when you look at this imagery, as I said in the last video, it looks as if they're just starting to dig themselves out of the mud. As if there's been some event that's literally, you know, maybe flattened part of that building, took the top of it off, I don't know. But it does say the ruins of the church are there. So I do believe that they are below that, just waiting to be dug out. Right, the Water Lodgings. These buildings that I'm going to show you now are pre-Grand. They were there before the Grand, and I'll just tell you a little bit about them. This block of houses here, they're called the Water Lodgings. I mentioned them briefly in the last video I did. Because what it looks very clearly to me, as if these buildings here are built in the footprint of something already there. Where I've gone away, read in the history books, and it appears, although I don't believe it, to be the other way around. These buildings here, they built these, then they wanted to extend them. So the extension they built not only came out from the side, right down here, and right the full length of the building. And it doesn't really make that much sense to me. And also going down 3 floors, for I think it's 4. I think in early Victorian times, before this event took place, this here, I do believe, is the remnants of the church that was here. There was St. Nicholas Church and St. Nicholas Hospital, and it goes right back to the 1300s, so I do believe that this site is pretty important, and that's why things have been built on top of it. This is really well after the mud event, because we've already been dug out along these houses. It's almost as if the Victorians have seen to the, you know, the residential properties first. I mean, we all know what squatters the Victorians were, if you follow this subject. You know, they've bit of spare cash, they've built these buildings here, and I think this story about the extension and building this, I don't believe is true at all. I think maybe they've decided to start and utilise this space here. But anyway, I'll move on.
Right, this is the same buildings but from the back. You stood on the seafront here looking up. These are the buildings, original ones, up the top. Now what they're saying is, they came first, and they built all this bloody big extension around it second. And I don't believe it, I really don't. There's a couple more pictures here that just really demonstrate the same as what they're saying. There's the original build. The darker, bigger build is the extension that come at a later date. And needless to say, they only had this extension, all the money. I mean, it's not a small extension by any means, but it was only up 20 years or so, and then they supposedly demolished it all to build the Grand. This is that same picture again. They say these are all dug out. These are all well established, these, so you know, this timeline, you know, saying that these were first built and these came second, it just doesn't really wash with me. It's another, it's just over here, I won't blow it up. You know, another picture depicting the same, really. Right, when I started inquiring about this building, quite a while back, I wrote to everybody, yeah, including the Grand, including Britannia Hotels that own it, Scarborough Council, Museum Services, the whole 9 yards I wrote to find out anyone that had construction photos of this place, the Grand being built. And lo and behold, my little friend Kelvin, he came up trumps because he's come up with some belting pictures. But what this does show is the Grand itself being built. You see all the scaffolding, but this extension is already there. You know, I could never understand why in the official narrative the original build didn't include this extension. Well, it wasn't included for the simple fact it was already there. They didn't need to include it. And I firmly believe that, as I said in the last video, that the Grand Hotel was just built to incorporate all that was already there. Let's see what the next picture is. This is an even better one. You can clearly see the construction that's going on, building the Grand here. But that extension, no scaffolding or nothing up round there. Nothing at all. And that's why I think this extension, well, I'll show you anyway. That's a similar picture, but the most important part I want to see all seems to be blurred out. But that actually looks like just after the Water Lodgings have been flattened to road level before the Grand was actually built on top of it. Right, this picture here, I mentioned it earlier on, I think. Grand as it is now, as it was in Victorian times. This tower thing here, couldn't understand what it was there for, why it was there. But then Kelvin sent me this picture, which really blew my mind when I started to look at it. Because, first of all, as I suspected, the scaffolding only shows the top half of the Grand being built. The brickwork which I mentioned in the early videos, you've got 200-year-old brickwork in a building that's 150-year-old. This clearly shows that extension's built and complete. You know, long before, I believe, this here. Now, one of the chaps that I was speaking to that used to go on the hunt, you know, when they were working nights, they'd go on the rake around on the dinner break, and one of the things he was telling me, he's been right down almost to the bottom, straight down, and that was pretty horrendous. Decided to come down this way and head out towards underneath the spa area. Now, what he said, and this was quite a couple of months ago now maybe, when you got down to that level, first of all it was like the catacombs down there. And he said they were so frightened to go any further because of the tremendous sound and running and rushing of water. Well, you've not only got them two tunnels there, you've got two that I can see over there. And why are these necessary underneath the purpose-built hotel? 50 yards to 100 yards to the left of the picture here, you'd have the mill beck, which is where all the water from this area drains into. So it's not for drainage, I don't believe 1 minute. And I actually believe this bottom part here, they haven't quite fully excavated yet. Because I'll show you a picture in a minute that sort of really blew me mind. But, you know, what are these tunnels about? They'll still be there. Because you can actually walk across the top of it, you know. It's a flat side there, so there'll be manhole covers or something. But there's no harm in whether they're in use now, whether it's been used in antiquity. See, I firmly believe this right across here, the top sort of, this 3 levels, I believe is from antiquity. I think it's from a period long before the Victorians. And really, the Victorians have come along, they built them Water Lodgings on the top. And then, at a later date, when there's been a bit more money about, they've concocted the Grand Hotel over the top of it. Now, if I can... Now, I'll show you. This is the top view. This red here is roughly where these Woods Lodgings were. Now, as I've mentioned, what they say is the Woods Lodgings came first, then they built the 3-storey extension going down the cliff. Now, the 3-storey extension going down the cliff is this green patch here. That's the extension. You know, so if you're building an extension onto that building, how come it's all the way over here? You know, it really doesn't make sense. You know, if they say they've built this extension close up to this, well, what's this bit doing here? You know, this is the original build, the V, so to say. But this was already here. And who knows, maybe a lot of the infrastructure underneath is already there. But the sort of narrative that they're giving out, I don't mean giving out, it's not the museum's fault or people I contact's fault. It's, you know, these history books were written quite a long time ago. And the fact is, we weren't around in the 1800s, I wasn't, certainly nobody else was either. So that's pretty much up in the air. This picture surfaced. Now with this picture, it blew my mind, because that's roughly how the footprint of the Grand is. You know, the building's almost identical to the Grand. The extension bit is almost the same as the Grand. But I've been told by several people it's an artist's impression of what they wanted it to look like, or what they expected it to look like. But who knows, is it an artist's impression of what it was like before the event? You know, it's obviously the event has happened because of the height of the street up there, but, you know, is this a glimpse into the splendour of what the Grand used to be? I mean, you have a road causeway coming around the side here. You have one round that way. Horses and carriages can get right round the top there. That's that 3-storey extension. So, you know, who knows. I originally started out on this just to try and find out why the Grand had so many levels below street for the purpose-built hotel. And in a nutshell, you know, it was a hotel built over something that was already there, as far as I'm concerned. At the end of the Grand building, as I've shown you the brickwork, that's 200-year-old in a 150-year-old building. Them archways that I've shown you, if we can go back to this picture, you know, is there another couple there? We just don't know, you know, we just don't know what's down here. what's been tampered with, what's still intact. The thing is, you know, just to unlock a couple of secrets of what the tunnels were for, you can make interest in the town. You know, you can make part of the town more interesting again. You know, which people, you know, might think it's a bit bloody daft, but, you know, I had a 2-night period built in Scarborough. Because of this bloody mudflood business, I extended it to 4 nights. So the town's already gained by this mudflood interest, even if it's only by me. So I very much doubt whether anybody will ever come clean about the event that caused this, because it seems to have been airbrushed out of history. But I'm 99.9% convinced that this bottom half of the Grand Hotel, or the Water Lodgings, wherever you want to call it, is the bottom half of a building from antiquity. I'll just go back onto that footprint as such. Nah, I've lost it again. You know, I'll leave you with that picture, because that building covers the space that the Grand does actually cover. You know, these are all paths now down here, and, you know, it's not all built up like that. This is all just bloody basic boarded off frontage now. But it'd be so nice to get down in the bowels of that place. I've got a camera crew down there, you know, local TV bloody news or something. There's a couple of people that are interested in it, not a couple of bloody farts whose profession it is to say whatever they're told to say. You know, a few individual people down there and have a look. Anyhow, I'm rabbited on enough about that one. But thanks very much for, you know, watching. If I find out any more about this place, I'll be sure to let you know, because I'm not finished with it yet. The same with a lot of things in Scarborough. Yeah, I just can't drag myself away from the place. I've got so much planned for my own town, but I keep getting drawn back here for some reason. Anyway, thanks again for watching. Bye now. An angle of the Grand you don't usually see. Very fortunate, I'm 4 floors up in the hotel opposite. But it does give you, I'll be able to get a better view of the roof. I'll just pull this chair on so I can sit down, it's a bit easier. Of what a great place it is. I can't help the windows, they're a bit mucky, but really get a good view of the windows up the top there and the roof, which if you follow the channel, it's synonymous with these type of buildings. There's capacitors, what I call them, everywhere. There's a big dome up there as well. It's strange. And the other thing is, it's a bit difficult to see. Bricked up windows. There's another one there. There's another one. The other thing I love as well, right away along the top there, just under the eaves, the lovely floral casting, as I call them, but the seagulls have made nests in them, so it can't be bad. Right away along. It's not the best quality footage, but, and see, the thing is as well, from up here you can see clearly, if you class that as one level, wrong way, that up there, that's one level. In the roof you've got 2, you've got your white windows, and then below them you have your other type. They've got capacitors on each one of them. Then you come to the little rooms underneath the eaves. Then you slowly come down. Now, it's difficult to see. The white balcony there, it actually goes right around the building. the bottom one there, before the event, used to continue just above that grey line. Now that grey line there, them windows at the bottom, that's floor 7, that's floor 8. Now the staff say the 3 floors below that, that brings you to 11, which is a 12-storey purpose-built hotel. So straight away things are just not adding up with this place. This white bit here is a Victorian add-on really, I would say, and just down that way there's a weird shaped fencing, but I've seen that all over Scarborough as it goes. But that's where all the path is subsiding down that way. It's in the local news about it. So that's a view of the Grand really from a slightly different angle of what you would do. And the other thing as well up there, the tiles across the top of the roof there, I went at the end of the building and got a side look on. I mean, there's some width to them. You know, it's they're really strange when you get an end-on view of them. I'll see if I can get around there today, a bit later on. But if I don't, I apologise. So, but as it goes, this hotel, it's spot on. And really nice people, and if you ask for a sea view room, they'll give you one. And this is one of the best there is, and it's room 418 if ever you want to come here. You know, so all you have to do is phone up and book a hotel room, and then phone up the hotel itself, and they'll accommodate you if they can. So I'm sorry about the mucky windows. There is no open windows that I can really look out of. My little friend, I tell you, seagulls here are terrible. You know, it's bad enough that they're outside your windows, but the buggers when they start knocking on your windows at 6 o'clock in the morning wanting food. But anyway, it's a little bit of a ramble, but there's the Grand Hotel in all its glory. Bye.